exorcism, they actually performed it in that room.
Which room?
This one right
Oh,
here.
okay.
This one.
Gotcha.
So if you ever look on YouTube, I mean, they filmed, I think, the whole thing, and you can watch it on YouTube. It's kind of crazy to watch, but the room looks a little different because those windows weren't there. The room used to be a little bit bigger, but it's the same wood paneling and everything. So yeah, that's where his exorcism was performed. I'll talk a little more about Carl when we go up to his apartment, but I just always like to point that out to people.
What year was that roughly? Or do you-
The exorcism,
Yeah.
it was in the early 90s.
Oh,
Every time I look it up, I then forget the exact, I'm terrible with like numbers and stuff. It was in the early 90s, I know that much.
gotcha.
That's why the video recording of it is kind of poor. It's kind of blurry and grainy.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
One thing I want you guys to listen to is this step right here. Look at that squeak. It's pretty distinctive. The same night that the light went on, we were in the basement. The main door to go in the basement is pretty much right below us. And as we were leaving, everybody was huddled there because somebody saw a spricket. Do you guys know what a spricket is? It's a spider cricket.
Oh.
Those creepy ass things.
Yes,
that,
I know what those are.
Yeah, they're like
saw
this
one in the-
stuff of nightmares.
Yeah.
Well, somebody saw one and they had never seen one before, so everybody's looking at that thing, and we kept hearing this squeak. And it happened 3 times, and then it sounded like people were walking up here, and then we'd hear the squeak again. And my first thought was that somebody had come in the building, and I always had this paranoia that I didn't lock the front door. But we distinctly heard that, and so we came outside and looked, and there were no strange cars in the parking lot. There was nobody up here, but we distinctly heard that sound of that step creaking and people walking around. Because, like you guys said, this building it's not soundproof in the least. So if anybody were in the basement right now, they'd hear me talking. So if anything's up here when we're downstairs, you'll definitely hear it. But back to the history. So the distillery was here until Prohibition. Once Prohibition hit, of course they shut down. Everything was torn down. And then a guy named John Pop purchased this property, and he built a small house on the property. He and his wife lived downstairs. And then up here, they operated a small restaurant cafe. And I've heard a couple different names for it. They either called it the Bluegrass Inn or they called it the Beacon Inn. They called it something. It was a small restaurant here. And when we go downstairs, you'll see that building. The original exterior of that building is still down there. And then everything else was just built around it. So, so that building was here for about 5 years. He had had a couple fires. He had been robbed a few times, and he eventually just got tired of it, I guess, so he sold the property to a guy named Buck Brady. Now, those of you that are local, you may have heard some of the history of Newport and Cincinnati, the mob history from back in the 40s and 50s. This area was very heavily controlled by organized crime families, namely the Cleveland Four from Ohio. They pretty much ran Newport and all the surrounding areas. So during Prohibition, there was a guy named George Remus who was a bootlegger in Cincinnati, and Buck used to drive for him. So he kind of knew the ins and outs of, illegal gambling and alcohol and all that stuff. So he thought he could make a go of having a supper club here. So he purchased this property, he added all of this on, and opened it up as the Primrose Country Club. Sneak by in here. All of these chairs that are here, these wooden ones that are out here, are original chairs from the Primrose. And the Primrose opened in 1943, so these chairs have been here since 1943. I just always think that's fascinating, especially what they go through now.
Right. Like on the weekends?
We
Yeah.
can't keep a chair for 3 years at our house.
I know.
A chair built today would not last 75 years. So it's pretty, some of them they've, repaired with new seats, but most of them are still the same, and there's a lot of them. I mean, all these chairs are original chairs. Oh, you're
Bless
gonna
you.
sneeze. I was gonna come stand
I
close
know,
to you.
sorry, I was trying to
No,
walk
because I
away.
smell something. It's you. Okay.
Oh.
No, it's not an unpleasant smell.
Okay, I'm like, oh.
I don't know if it's like detergent or perfume or something. But sometimes when you smell things, it can be, because a lot of people claim to smell roses, especially in the basement, which is a nice smell to have in that basement.
Yeah, that's true.
So So let's keep going this way.